Yes.
Okay.
Page 6.
Okay, so the first one I'm gonna start with is I completely forgot to put in overtime until a few minutes ago, so I'm gonna request $500 for that. That's for when Scotty has her meeting, her meetings that she might have to stay after 5, like stuff like utility or planning and zoning, stuff like that. And that is 40125 is the line item.
That's not in this first.
Yeah, I was gonna go to.
Yeah, you can.
Last year.
And then, on my per diem and training, I did request a little bit more on training. I'm currently certified, so I want to send Gopi for training. It's a 3-year course to get certified, so I want to start her on that. So I requested $800 for that one. My per diem and my fuels, they're the same from last year. The Sentinel for publications, that went down a little bit. I didn't use it as much as I usually do. So I requested 9,000 on that. And then for Civic Plus for our ordinance subscription, that's for when we do our codification and stuff like that. I requested $2,200 for that one. And then all of these for Civic Plus, Revise, these are just like subscriptions for website, for dues, stuff like that. Our social media account, that's $8,000. We did put in $3,000 for records retention. A lot of our departments are working on trying to get records constructed because they're running out of room. So I did budget $3,000 for that one. Laserfish, which is our archive software, nothing really changed on that, or our media for our recording, that didn't change there. We did increase, if you go to 48599 for other contractual services, we did increase that. When I did my last update at the commission meeting, I let you guys know that on iWorks, we did get a lodger tax module and an updated business license module. So that's what that increase is for, because I used to pay $4,500 for our module. And then, so in order to get that, I had to increase it a little bit. That looks about it on that one. Do you guys have any questions?
I love your tax module. Is that identify the rest of the businesses that, okay,
Yeah, so we'll be able to track any businesses that are registered through VRBO or Airbnb.
okay. And you anticipate that should probably bring us some more revenue, right?
And then we also, on our business license model, anybody who is registered with Google will also be able to track that. So that should increase revenue as well.
So if you identify them,
It has their address on there, their mailing address. So I'll have to get with Tyler to see what, if he can help us. But what I'm thinking right now is maybe send out letters, and then if that doesn't work, we'll kind of go from there. But it's a step forward. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, to support Angela too. One of the challenges we've talked about this year, heard a lot about, is potentially we're not catching enough revenue because of the Airbnbs. And the flip side is, how do we go find out without going door to door, right? So with this particular case, we feel like it solves our ability to know, right, who's an Airbnb or a VRBO. And then so what Angela and I have spoke about is, now we can move into a policy time where we can develop the right policies to what happens if we find them, how do we capture it, how do we, now that we know we can get the information that's going to be accurate to us. So So I think we've been provided lots of guidance from some of the folks on the P and Z board, and there's a few members that have been wanting to help us. So we have a real opportunity here to kind of put in some new policies, so.
Okay, any questions? The clerk? Yeah,
And then on page 99, okay. So on this one, I did budget $775 on this. We may or may not use this. It just depends on if we have any burials for the niches at the memorial wall. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So I just wanted to make sure that we did have money in there that it could cover it in case we did have a burial. And that's what this is. $775 is what they pay for the niche, the burial, and then the little plaque that goes on there. That's all this one is.
okay. I think we're gonna have any questions there.
That's the biggest budget we have. So next we are moving on to Miss Sonia. She is on page 204.
I just stand. You want me to sit?
You get the hot seat.
You can stand if you want.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to give you some updates on the utility office before we start. Red tags so far this year, we've actually issued 1,440, which is down from last year, which was 2,400. We have active payment arrangements currently for $18,000, which we get payments on every month. We've been implementing, we call customers for past due amounts before we send out red tags. That's going to help with our collection customer service person. We've also been calling customers. We got back into the routine of calling customers that have high water usage. And there's times that we actually even go out into the field to go try to help the customers or let them know which side it's on, whether it's usually on their side or sometimes it is on the city side. We have been working on our relationships with the other utility departments, and we've all so far this year have been acting really good, working together. We have sent out from July 1st to date 127,906 utility bills. We've been securing more deposits for customers. We're actively signing up customers for auto bank draft, which is helping with our credit card fees. We've really been pushing that. We've also implemented a text to pay system, which has worked out really well for us. We also are starting to email delinquent bills, and we are sending the delinquents out a day prior to the billing, which is giving the customers actually more time to come in and make arrangements or to pay their bills with us. I think so far in payments from July 1st to date, we've taken in $9.4 million into the utility office. That's us actually taking payments from the customers, whether it be check, cash, credit. We also have secured $52,000 in utility deposits.
A lot of numbers. What's your overall trend? Are we increasing Billing, decreasing in billing, we have more people in town, what's going on?
You know, it's, currently we have about, well, we have 3,900 residential and small commercial customers. And we have 120, large commercial. So, I mean, we're about 4,200 customers. And since July 1st, we've actually secured 254 deposits. So that's about 254 new customers that have come in to start utility accounts. Yes, sir.
So are you telling me our city's growing?
Our city is growing and we are collecting money.
Good.
I always like to put that in there before we start my budget. But my budget this year, as you guys can see, we didn't really make very many changes. You guys want to start from the top and go down, or would you like me to go over the increases first? Or-
It's,
Okay.
would be beneficial, and if we have questions along the way, we'll just chime in.
Okay. And we'll start at our fuel amount. Is that right?
You are at the per diem that we're starting at the top, but if you're going over your significant increases, you would probably start at rent of equipment.
Okay. Well, my, I know our per diem, we actually didn't have anything budgeted last year. We did put in 500 just in case. I'm not sure if we'll use that or not. And then we have employee training. I would definitely like to send more of the employees to some training, especially when we get our customer service collections person hired. I would like to have them have classes for training, especially. Our fuel, last year, we didn't really use a whole lot of fuel. Our Jeep was in the shop most of the time, so we just left that fuel at the same amount. Our rent of equipment went up by 5,000 this year, and that's just inflation. We did recently, our Relay 5000, which is our folding machine, got replaced. And they are gonna start replacing our equipment that we have leased every 2 years since we are a government entity. The insurance, utility maintenance, that stayed the same. Postage and mail, I'm leaving it the same at 45,000. I know we've been out of receipts to be able to order more postage, so I actually just put in more postage today, which on Friday we'll use the rest of our budget that we have budgeted for that for this fiscal year. The printing and publishing, that's for our envelopes and our return envelopes. Now, the problem we're having with those is the inflation and the shipping. That changes, it's gone up quite a bit this year, so we're expecting it to go up quite a bit next year also.
Let's go back to, sorry, I was gonna go back to postage and mail.
Okay,
So year to date, you've only used 20,000.
yes. And as of this Friday, I just put in another receipt to get 20 more thousand. So it'll be used up.
So is there any benefit to really pushing electronic payments? Does that help postage and mail, or why is it so high? Is it,
I think it's the certified letters that uses up a lot of postage, because we have to, on a lot of things that we do, we have to send out certified mail, and it's pretty expensive per letter.
Yes, and then also now with the new system in place, any of the library, any of the books they're sending or receiving, they bring that to our office now, and we're actually printing out the labels and mailing those also.
Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners, all of my planning and zoning public hearing notices that go to the P and Z board, all of that postage goes to the utility office as well. So every time I have to do a public hearing, Sonny gets the bill.
our postage?
And those are all certified.
So it's a bad elevation. So you guys look on me.
One of the changes we're gonna make there, Mayor, is we're gonna, the title, utilities and post office.
Yeah, can we start our own stuff? Yeah.
They are kind and efficient.
I think that was one of our biggest increases. Again, like I said, it's the envelopes. I know before in the past, we've talked about not sending in return envelopes. But, I would like to continue to do that until a later date. The customers do use those envelopes for the most part. Subscriptions and dues, that went up this year and that went up 10,000. That's our credit card receipts that we have to actually pay for people using our credit cards. We do have a fee that we charge. The fee is still $2.50. In the near future, we will need to go up on that fee to recover some of that money because currently we do still carry a lot of that balance. So the city's paying for most of the fees on there.
If we end up moving to, for example, Final Pay, the customer eats that cost, not the city. So that's one of the things I want to look at when we're looking at switching over the credit cards.
Our telephone. Where our telephones do I need now? Yeah, our telephone went up. Again, I just put that up for inflation. I'm not sure. Our bill should pretty much stay the same as it has been. So if we needed to cut that, we could. Our utilities, 5,500. We gotta pay our utilities. We don't want to be red tagged.
It'd be 14,001.
Right. Software license is 15,000. And it's the same as it was last year. Our office supplies, we left at 5,500. That seems to work out well for us. Usually we will spend the rest of that in the next couple months just to make sure that we have enough paper and stuff to cover us, to carry us over to the new fiscal. We are using quite a bit more paper and stuff now that we're doing the delinquent accounts also. And then our non-capital is at 3,000. We just kind of left that at the same amount also. Property liability insurance, 200. General liability, 2,700. Our vehicles, 1,000, and the maintenance for our vehicles, 1,200, just in case we need any repairs on the cheap. And I'm sorry, my budget is never as exciting as other people's.
You get the valve fixed in your Jeep?
Yeah, no, sir. In fact, we just spoke with Wyatt about the fob last week. And he said they just kind of told him, sorry, that's the way it is. Which, I mean, you know,
Shouldn't it be under warranty?
it should, yes, it definitely should. And
It's kind of a pain in the butt.
it is, and especially because, you know, the key fobs, as you guys, I'm sure all are aware, that when you leave it like in the vehicle, your vehicle's not supposed to lock on you, so on and so forth. Well, it still will lock with the fob in it. And so we're still hoping that that can be fixed in the future. Yes,
Sounds like somebody needs to get a service with some company somewhere.
yes.
Any questions concerning utilities, comments? With We gonna be that nice to her?
Hey, I thought you guys didn't know her. Do you have any questions for me? So much.
So next we have Tracy with the community development on page 45.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Left and Commissioners. For the most part, my budget remained pretty much the same, and the salary section, there is a potential budget, I think, if city manager moves forward on the structure, then there would be administrative assistant, right, and admin. So there is a little bit of increase in my budget to account for that partial payment of an admin. I think that's a shared cost between me and OJ. Moving on to my main expenses, per diem, employee training, no charge or change there. I'm lucky enough that most of my required trainings for the grants, most of them are virtual. I do have a few of them that I have to attend. Rent of equipment, that's a new line for me. The past city manager has paid all the fees for our Sharp copy machine, but I'll need to plan for that moving ahead in this next budget year. Bit of an increase on our printing and publishing. That's to account for all of these projects that are going out to bid. We do have to advertise those projects for bid, and bid advertisements for majority of the funding sources is not a reimbursable expense. And so we'll budget that for publication. It also goes for my public notices that I have to send out for like the ICIP, various items like that. Next, my subscriptions and dues, those are all broke down. Annual Adobe, the grant search software I do, my maintenance contract for the large format printer, with the annual meeting note taker, my dues for New Mexico League of Zoning membership, my iWorks, and then some other miscellaneous dues like the municipal league dues. There's a airport association due, they're little minor ones in there. No changes to the telephone, slight increase on the office supplies. There again, we're using a lot of paper, printing out for all the public meeting notices that I have for planning and zoning. There seems to be a lot of those coming down. And then plus with all of the projects that have now gone out to bid or in contract, we have regular monthly, weekly, bi-weekly meetings. And so we have agendas for those that I print out when we meet with the department heads to go over those. And then under cleanup and demolition, I haven't used as much this year, but I did budget a little for next year. We do have a couple of resolutions that I'm working with code enforcement on, a couple of potential properties that may be demoed. And if they don't make it through this fiscal year, they'll roll over into next fiscal year. So we're just on a time frame for the notification for the property owners right now. And then under professional services, I guess the notes didn't save in there, but the professional services, those are going to cover the MOU we have with the county for flood director management for planning and zoning items. It's the MOU for the county for city addressing. We also have MOU, which is in every 2 or 3 years with the county for, it's called Eagle View. So that's the nice pictures that are displayed like on the parcel map, but we have a back door that we go into for that. There's a flyover this year for that. We have engineering fees for any type of grant assistance, such as certified cost estimates, grant entry, the presentations that they prepare, as well as various task orders for minor planning and zoning things, like Morgan Street would have been a good example where we have some small engineering fees for them to review the Morgan Street sewer extension, as well as the engineering fees for brand new bills for planning and zoning. This year, we are also looking at the potential of having to revise our zoning map. So we don't have, our current zoning map doesn't show the annexation of the airport. And so that's something that's been coming up quite a bit with the properties surrounding the airport, and then with the potential finalization of the annexation that we're in collaboration with Elephant View, then the map will have to be revised. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Questions, comments?
So next is the airport, 239.
So some basic accomplishments throughout the airport over this last fiscal year. We completed the fuel farm relocation of the self-service, and we did some safety improvements for the terminal area. We just in the last week or so completed our 5010 inspection. That's where the state contracts with an individual to go to the airports every 3 years, and they do a full inspection of that airport, looking at our vegetation, the slopes, striping, signage, everything. We have not gotten that report back, but brief speaking with the gentleman that was out there, he's pretty impressed, especially with all of our dirt runway and the vegetation, and the clearing looks really good. So we're expecting a good report from there. Moving forward this year, we're really looking at doing a new ALP or airport layout plan out there at the airport. That's one of the things that's on the airport CIP for funding. We've received some funding for that through state and federal funds. Kind of a new master plan that will give us a good direction for the future of our airport. We also have the potential of a soft field clinic that may be coming to our runway. They're still in preliminary talks right now. They partner with New Mexico Aviation, and it's doing a bunch of dirt runway training. So we have great dirt runways, and so they potentially want to use that for some training. On our revenues right now out at the airport, currently we get our revenues to the airport through hangar rentals. We have 30 rentals, 30 hangars out there that we rent, and we do actually have 2 people sitting on a wait list currently. Our average hangar rent ranges between 75 to 110 a month. So we're bringing in only just under $3,000 for our airport annual airport hangar rent. We also have some property leases that we have out there at the airport, the Augie hangar, which has 12 hangars that they rent out privately. But that is people that are coming in and out of our airport and fueling and getting gas at our airport. And then we have the LaFont hangar. And so the Augie hangar brings us in around 2,200, a little under 2,300 a year. And the LaFont hangar is closer to around 8,000 a year. Those will have a CPI increase annually. Then we have the surrounding property leases. We have Talon Septic. We get $11.50 per month from Talon Septic, and we have the Cortez Gas, and they rent property out by the airport at $250 a month. Fuel sales over the last couple of months have been great. November, and this doesn't include our self-serve. This is only the ones that our attendants go out there and fuel, and they run through the system. So November, we sold $14,600 worth of fuel. December, $29,000. January, $16,400. February, we only did $8,100 in fuel. March, $14,800. And April, we did, this month, we're already at $15,500. We sell both avgas and jet fuel out there. We did have some survey crews out at the airport. They spent most of March. They're a private company that were out doing some surveying, so they fueled the whole time they were out there. So for the expenses for our airport, again, we have the rent of equipment. That's our Sharp machine. We just budgeted, kept that one the same. The World Fuel rental equipment is for our fuel trucks. So currently we lease our fuel trucks. One of the things we're trying to do, work with World Fuel, the potential of purchasing at least one of those, if not both of those. The rent or lease for those trucks is a little bit revenue heavy. We should have purchased by now. The subscriptions and dues, you'll see there's nothing budgeted there because I was able to move those into our biannual maintenance grant. They've adjusted the allowances for the maintenance grant, and instead of having to buy a whole lot of windsocks, we can now use them for some of our maintenance subscriptions and dues. The World Fuel subscriptions and dues, that's for the self-serve fueling station. The telephone, you'll see that seems like it's a bit high for a phone for just at the airport, but that does include their Wi-Fi because it does include the self-serve station out in the area, includes a number for the credit card machine within the terminal, and then Wi-Fi that we have there within the terminal building as well. And then vehicle maintenance, of course, is just the maintenance that we do have to do on the leased trucks. That is part of the agreements with World Fuel. Plus, we have a tractor and a tool cat. And most of those can go through most of the time the service center. They're really good about going out there and servicing our vehicles, but there are occasions where we need to purchase items for especially the tractor and the fuel truck that the service center doesn't do. And then the last one, professional services, that's to cover our airport management contract. We believe this is the last year that it is under that contract. And so internally, city manager and I have been just kind of discussing the direction that we want to go with the airport, whether we want to go back out for an RFP, because if we did decide to keep it under any airport management, it has to go back out for bid, or if we want to look at something different and do internally. So him and I have had lots of conversations about that.
What's your sense? As far as going back out to contract, or we're never gonna go back to our own management, are we?
Mayor Pro Tem, mostly just conversations. I don't think I have a real perspective on it yet. I mean, it's operating, we have the contract, not probably spent as much time diving into the ideas, but Tracy and I, when we have time to sit and talk about things, it's, she's got a good handle of the airport. So, but I don't know if we'll go back to RFP or not.
We'll say our airport looks great. We have very happy hangar people, tenants, and transients that do come in and out. I don't know if our current contractor is even interested in pursuing past that. Those are conversations that, he's also brought up. With that being said, as you guys know, when he has come and presented, which he'll be here at the meeting on the 22nd to give you guys a presentation as well. Regardless, it's a great source of information for our airport. He knows what it can be, especially with, the future of potential spaceport and the mine. And there's just so many hunters, everything our airport could grow. So regardless of the direction that we go, we have the ability to grow our airport considerably. And he's gotten us, I think in a good spot moving forward. So
I know it's been a lot less painful having it managed by someone else.
right.
Remember when we used to manage it, it was pretty difficult sometimes.
You don't hear from anybody anymore, right?
No, that would be a strong consideration.
Right.
And I would, Mayor Pro Tem, we had a really good meeting with Delta Engineering. They're the engineering firm that we use for the airport, and we've just developed a good strategy on, applying for grants. We're definitely in line. I'm gonna have the dates wrong, around 2030 to have the main runway, repaved. They're gonna do it from, just working our way out. The taxiways will be next, and then the runway. So, the airport just feels like it's healthy. It's in good shape. Just have to kind of work through it and see if these dollars are worthy of investing, and we can make it continue to grow.
Thank you.
I saw was another department asking for a new vehicle. But apparently we need this, right? Eventually,
But that,
the vehicle for the fuel.
yeah,
Because leasing.
That's, it, you know, it's been a nightmare for all the years, I mean, the last 10 years that I've been any part of the airport, that has been a sore spot, but the cost of a fuel truck is astronomical, you know, and so we just ended up going with leasing with the idea that potentially we could lease to own. But World Fuel's not the easiest to work with. They're kind of difficult to get in those conversations. I don't know if they have a lot of turnover or what, but we have reached out a few different times over the last few years, but I think that we're in a good place with good city management support on the airport's kind of way out. It's forgotten. And I think that we benefit is knowledgeable of our airport from, you know, way back in the days with the courtesy cars. So
And Mayor, would say the goal would be buy the truck we have there, it works, there's no, not necessarily a new one, it would be, could we negotiate, stop the lease? It'd be a partial new purchase.
Well, a joke answer would be to take the old back truck from the water department and fill it with fuel.
Yeah. We could fill it up pretty fast.
Right?
All right. Move on to finance.
Tracy. Finance is on page 16. I'm gonna read the letter because it's easier for. Dear City Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, and the public. The Finance Department this past year has continued to upgrade their skills by being cross-trained in the Tyler system. The city has historically paid $5,000 a year for Tyler University, which was never utilized. I canceled the service and switched out to the Tyler Zoom training program that we're currently using, which is live training, the lesser cost of $3,300. And we've opened it up to the entire city to get training. Whenever I have a training, I reach out to the departments. And this process helped with the training for the new budgeting system as well. And then, which brings me to the new budgeting process, which you've noticed. We wouldn't have had page numbers this year without it because of the spreadsheets we used before. And we were to leave in a timely manner this year instead of staying until 10 o'clock at night for a week. So that was really great. We have Carlos as fully functional CPO. I still oversee him to make sure things are within the laws and what the CPO role entails, but he's gaining ground and he's doing a good job with that. And then you met Karina earlier, our finance specialist. I'm really impressed with her. She knows her stuff. We left out with her. And then Silka has taken on the role of the fixed assets and updating our insurances. This role can't be successful without the help of the city employees because she needs the input in order to put the inputs. So that's one of our challenges right now that we're looking at with that function. And then our IT specialist is currently working on the IT policy and has been working on the electronic inventory. HR has been working closely with the city manager on the restructuring project. And after a year and a half in the finance department, I've noticed that staff is overextended in their capacity, and we would like to consider an additional person once HR is moved over to the manager's new location. I believe an additional person would help with inventory assets, bank reconciliations, and ongoing procurements. The finance department keeps moving forward for the city, but I see where it's overwhelming. This consideration would be greatly appreciated. My intention is to continue to strive and excel our department. Stand for your questions. Thank you for your time.
Questions? Can we go through a couple of these line items? Notice that you're increase your employee training?
Yes, I think I mentioned it last fiscal year. They were not being utilized in trainings. And I'm a great believer in education, and I think the better our staff is trained, the better it is for the city.
Your specific training you have in mind?
I've been taking like for the. So I have where the CPOs do the NMPDA conferences, and that's twice a year. And that's good. They're great tools for procurement. And then I have, where we were doing the DFA trainings, to learn the new rules and nuances that happen there. And then, I can't remember the one we went to. The municipal, that's a good training too. It helps us understand what's going on throughout the state.
And is that something that all of your staff is eligible to go to, or do you select specific ones? Or
I'm trying to not take them all at once, but I'm trying to like move them around and
Get at least-
so they can have experience on them.
About subscription and dues,
It's the SHAR.
the 14,000 there?
Oh, sorry, that's IT portion. So I wasn't, because of the changes, we've just included Michael's budget in our budget, but I will be deeper to Michael, so he can tell you what he needs for his IT budget. That's
Check it out there. Sure.
That's the batteries and the cables and stuff.
See, there's 14.
This is the line items you asked to purchase for additional cables and supplies to have in stock.
Workstation.
Works.
APC battery replacement, workstation.
Sure, there's 14 new ones. So. Yeah, I can see that, but there's also, like, cause I requested,
That's on that's a 1018 portion. That other portion request is 1018.
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what is it the 3, like it's the antivirus, the lead in the checkpoint maybe?
It's 1018. This is your cables.
Okay, well, we requested like 2,200 of the cables and stuff, that's why if you start this.
Just copy and paste it.
Oh, I see what happened. Okay, so that should actually be 7,000,
Oh, right.
because I totaled up what I requested and then I put a total.
That's seven.
So I didn't have direct access to the system, so I had to send a spreadsheet. So that's actually double what.
Yeah, I see the math down below, that's why.
I know.
I mean, I could explain the breakdown of the 7.
No, it explains it here.
Yeah.
Oh, that was copy and paste from the.
Yeah.
No.
There's a correction, all right. Everything else is good. That's the only thing that jumped out at me, I think we're good.
Okay. Glad we were able to clear that.
Yeah, that's important.
You have any other questions?
And I don't know, I just want to clarify for Alona's items, because that was another thing we added into our budget. It's under professional services. It's the actual.
Contract.
The last one. Oh. Hold on a second. Some technical difficulty. So on Alona's, on other contractual services, the majority of all that budget is hers. So with the move, we would be taking that out of our budget and moving it into the manager's budget. So that's another 32,400 spendings. But that's all based on all the contracts and, that Alona currently uses. That's just like for, well, Alona can explain her own stuff.
I use contractual services for, the background checking.
Thank you.
So I use it for the background checks and then also the drug screenings. And then the drug screenings are for also for the random drug testing.
So just so I'm clear, is it, so it went down from 43,000 to 32,000, that's because Alona's taking her budget out?
Just if you look at what she's spent so far, she's only spent 26,000. So we decreased it based on what's actually estimated use. And I think it just depends a lot on the background checks on the hiring. So the more background checks we use, the higher it goes up. But we don't hire a lot, it's not used.
I've only had about 60 years this year.
I think that's good. Means there's less opening, right?
Yeah, I put it at about half. I had, I think, about 15, 16 last year, this time, and about 7. this year.
Okay, that's good news. Good. Excellent. Okay, any other questions? Think we're good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Mr. Whitehead with page 11, for the manager's budget.
Thanks, Michael. All right. We're getting down to the good part.
Can I ask a question before we start?
Yes.
When we do fire, is anybody coming in to do fire? Or are you doing it?
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, we can do it. Joanna from the office is also the fire department's admin. And so
Okay.
we've been briefed and we put in the budget so we can, now we're not sure if Paul or Ron are going to join us.
The only reason I'm saying anything is we're a half hour ahead of schedule, so we might want to notify someone.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I can eat up a half hour. I can get us back on track if you want me to. I guess that's a solid no.
I can hear Ingal's stomach.
Won't take much time. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, thanks for this day. It's been a good day. If you take a look at my budget, really a pretty simple budget. Most things happen throughout the budget within mine, but we have prepared for the potential move where we would move human resources and IT into our budget. So that's what you'll see there on the wage side. And then of course, all the numbers would go up on those benefits that we have to add to that particular item. The largest increases that I think we put in for would be some travel and per diem. Again, this year I'd like to try to attend. I've already signed up for the flood conference, which was a request of me last year to attend that, and I couldn't get there. So I'd be planning on attending a few more conferences. As I make the changes again downstream, I'd like to give myself the ability to get out of here and go to an electrical utility conference. Kind of committed to the chief. I'd like to spend some time at some police conferences, kind of up our skill set, my skill set in both of those particular areas on those two items. As it relates to rent of equipment, I'm also going to be, we have, with the PIO, we're using the PIO from lodger's tax. This year, I'm going to kind of balance that out. I'm going to use PIO from lodger's tax as well as some of the clerks in salaries. to make that balance out. The clerk has been gracious. They worked really hard this year to take care of lodger's tax. So we're going to kind of balance those two items out. But by doing so, I'm going to move the PIO's expense for the copier. So last year when we started and we added the newsletter, we didn't quite budget enough. We didn't think about those costs, right? We're printing those 3,000 copies a month. We want to keep that going. So you'll see those are the increases in my budget to cover the cost. We did have to do a budget adjustment resolution. If you remember back 2 months ago, we had to adjust those fees. So those will go up there. In our subscriptions, pretty typical across in our office, standard items. And then we were able to find this year, right? We received several invoices for dues that we did not know we were going to get, and we budgeted. But this year, you know, we kept those, and so we're able to have all those merged. Was one of those, and then also the flood conference has a fee that we'll pay. So we picked up those dues and subscriptions. And then again, on the copier, you heard assistant manager talk about we didn't budget enough across the board. I had budgeted for expense on the copier, but we needed to share it within the office. So we put some in the community services director, and then some of it into community development. I'm going to talk a little bit. I've got so many items to talk about on projects. This year, our revised contract is up from the city, which Revise is who hosts our website. Our PIO has worked pretty hard to get comfortable with Revise and has identified many of the weaknesses in our ability to be as nimble as we'd like to be able to post things correctly. So we are going to propose that we move to a new hosting for this particular situation. It's a good time. So the revised contract is up, and we would pay Revise. We would owe them about $12,000 for the renewal for a new 4-year contract, and then the annual subscription. So again, we're going to change companies and have about the same cost on those particular items for our website. And again, those items are moving into my budget now as opposed to the clerk's budget. So you'll see we put those items. I asked everybody to really just add those back to their budget like they would. But as we clean up the interim, as I go through this, we'll move all those items. So my budget will pick up some of the items from the clerk, some of the items from the from the clerk's budget, and some again from the finance department. And I think that really kind of rounds out the manager's budget. Stand for any questions.
Comments, questions? Think anybody has any here?
Oh, pretty good.
Good.
Okay. Moving along, pretty good, huh? Well, I'm going to take it all up here. Let's go to lodger's tax.
It is on page 82.
A second to get where I need to be here.
Technically 83.
Yeah, we're on page 83. I'm going to bounce back in just a moment. So again, what I want to point out on lodger's taxes, I expressed earlier today, the lodger's tax revenue seemed to be trending slightly lower than we anticipated. Last year, we budgeted for $500,000. This year, I've proposed that we budget for $450,000 in lodger's tax. We had several good projects last year. The electronic signs were a big expense that we paid for last year, which took down a little bit of the cash. We've been kind of building up. We were over $1 million in cash. So now I'm gonna go back to my spreadsheet on this particular item. In the very back of your book. Thank you, you're awesome.
Sorry, it's the fold out that looks like it's.
Thank you. Here. So this year's budget, again, I'm projecting that at the end of the budget cycle, we'll be carrying forward approximately 850,000. I've done a cash analysis looking back at 3 years, and the carry forward on the Civic Center is approximately 318,000. I'll do a final recap, which again, to point out, the 850,000 isn't all just lodgers tax funds, right? We collect 1% tax for the Civic Center, and the city's not used that over the last 3 years. So we've used about 20, no, we've used about, let me get to my sheet. So that's it. So again, in your packet, you'll see my recap of the Civic Center 1% review. Over the past 4 years, we've not really expended. We've spent 35,978,000 of the Civic Center funds, which left us the balance that you see on my report of 318,000. What I'd like to do in my calculations for revenues is use half of that revenue. Really should have covered the sign, right? What the sign that we put here in front of the Civic Center is really primarily for the Civic Center. So those signs were about 180,000 to put all 3 of those signs. Was one on each side of here, and then the one at the ballparks. So that leaves us about $228,000 of revenue in our carry forward cash that belongs to the Civic Center. And as I said earlier, we'd like to do some projects at the Civic Center, fix the roof, be able to do those improvements. So you can see we're going to be close to 300,000 in revenues that we have for the Civic Center itself. Any particular questions on that? And that recap is in your sheet. Okay, the other thing that I did last year as I was getting started, I had so many people come in and visit with me about lodgers tax, and I kind of took and listened to those folks and kind of tried to spread those dollars out amongst the items that they wanted. And so what I did, I dug back in this year, and you can see in your packet, I provide myself a little confused. I apologize. We've had an ordinance that requires that 60% of the lodgers tax funds goes to advertising, 40% goes to facilities. And that's kind of the way we budgeted. In the revenue side, Karen has an expense line in there that talks about promotional advertising and non-promotional advertising. In studying the law and studying the handbook, those numbers come to be of the first 3% of gross receipt of lodgers tax revenue, you have to spend 50% of those funds in advertising, in promotional. Of the second 2%, you have to spend 25% in promotional. Those are the only obligations within the law that we're required to do. So what I've done this year is I've set up the budget to show you that of the 450 that we're carrying forward, 180,000 would represent the promotional side of the requirement that we would have to spend for lodgers tax. The remaining balance can be spent in any form and fashion that we need to. It can also be spent for promotional. It doesn't have to be spent just for facilities. So if you go across the top of the spreadsheet that I've given you in your lodgers tax, you guys all have access to this. This should be in the back of the book. It's easier to tear out. So taking that 180,000, which is the promotional requirement, right? That means that at the end of the day, I have to be able to verify to the auditors that we spent at least 180,000 in advertising. And then you can go down the sheet and see the items that I plugged in for direct spending from that particular line item. 17,000 for the tourism, Sierra County's tourism, which that pays for the website. That's a consistent program that we've had from last year. That Sierra County tourism is also in your binder for recommendation. I proposed that through Sunny 505, we do the same exact contract that we did last year, which would be 135,000, including gross receipt tax. Remember, of that money, 60,000 goes to the state of New Mexico, which is then used for the co-op funding, which gives us our 2-to-1 match. That 65 we send turns into the county's going to give us 5 this year, and Elephant Butte's going to give us 5 this year. Then we'll end up with the 190,000 that we received, and then we're paying Sunny 505 about $12,000, $1,000 a month to manage our advertising program. And then Sunny 505 would propose that we spend about 60,000 in different fundamental ideas with their advertising agencies. And then I break it down for events and promotions. Again, within lodgers tax, the structure of lodgers tax allows you to use it for the event, not just the promotion. You can use it for the event. It outlines specific items which you can pay. And so I've laid out the items under the event promotions that we would be able to potentially do, which would be, as you know, this year, I changed the fee structure for our facilities. And what we're looking for is if somebody's coming to town and wants to use our civic center or the parks, and they're an event that they can promote through lodgers tax, they could go to the lodgers tax board, have that item approved by the lodgers, and then that funded could pay for our civic center. So again, we're not going to be donating the civic center. It's an eligible expense to lodgers tax if that particular item qualifies. An example would be the square dancers who came and said, hey, we'd really like to come to town and can we use the civic center? Well, they just needed to go to lodgers tax, approve, and they got approved. The organization that we have going to the park this weekend that's doing a community event, they're not eligible for lodgers tax, right? They're only doing this event to benefit citizens of Sierra County. Somehow you have to tie lodgers tax to reaching out past 60 miles and putting a head on a bed, right? So when you can connect those two dots, then they become eligible. So that's in the budget. We would have Main Street and Fiesta administration would happen through there. I've put in the Fiesta event for next year at 20,000. We would want to do the summer concerts through this particular line item at 6,000. We have some of those will happen this year still. We have a little budget left to do them. We're going to do those 3 Fridays, June, July, and August. And it's nice. The second one will be July 3rd. So we'll be doing, we're putting together a cool idea to have a potential 4th of July parade on July 3rd. And the street dance would be a July 3rd event to support. And then Friday, Saturday, July 4th, folks could then go to Elephant Butte and participate in the fireworks show. And then what I've done here, I've added 2 line items, 5,000 each for both Geronimo Springs Museum and the Veterans Memorial Museum as well. And then likewise, we would add some advertising for both. So trying to give both the Veterans Wall and Geronimo Springs $10,000 each from lodgers tax to benefit, not only in advertising, but for their buildings. Again, same as everyone there, as you know, you probably heard from them, insurance and the cost of operating are just higher. So in the event side, that would leave from the 147, taking the items out would leave the lodgers tax board with $103,000 still to allocate to those community members that came to present to lodgers tax board. And then in the advertising side, 12,000. So altogether, the lodgers tax board would still have $115,000, which they would have to put out to those community events that came and asked for them. And then under the facility side, we would still put 50,000 into the golf course. And then we would have the rent on Geronimo's Trail Scenic Byway. $60,000 would go to the Main Street operation. And then we've committed 15,000 to the Levitt Music event this year. And then $3,000 as well to the summer street festivals, the street concert. And so with that, let me move us. I apologize. I was going to say I'll stand for questions on lodgers, but also the lodgers tax promotes 1% to the Arts Council, our Arts Council, and they are allowed to carry those forward for 2 years. We did not spend any of those funds. So this year I would be promoting 13,000 for them. They have 20,000 that they'll carry forward, which would give us 33,000. I would tell you that I'm expecting to make a presentation back to the art board to fix the art piece down at Geronimo Springs. So we did find a contractor that can go in and fix that art piece. As you know, from the underside, it's beginning to rust and fail. So we have a proposal to kind of repair that. So I think the Arts Council would like to use those funds to repair that piece of art.
So on the Arts Council, it's the Public Art Board
It's our
rather
Public
than,
Arts
yeah.
Board. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me straight. The Public Arts Board.
It gets confusing.
And then again, I proposed under the budget, 150 from the convention center, but we would probably propose using upwards of that 200,000. As you heard earlier from Thomas, we definitely need a roof on that building. And then we have other projects that we would like to do in there, the lighting and the kitchen equipment and some upgrades. So that is our proposal for lodgers tax.
Well, it's certainly not more comprehensive than we're used to, which is good.
It's much better than, we have $800,000, but we don't know where we're gonna spend it.
He's worked really hard on it.
Well, I'm the bearer of the bad news. You don't have 800,000. And I think that, in fairness, I really, I mean, I say it over and over on lodgers tax. Angela and Kate have done a good job studying. We work together. The subrecipients I think we're getting it down, and we're going to, I think we're running a pretty efficient operation there with lodgers tax now. So. And they can do, even though I'm cutting back on the funds, the other side is they can do more with more of it. Again, if they were taking 60% before and saying, I can only use that for promotions, that's not what the rule says. That's not what the law says, right? The law says, take the formula, whatever that number is, that has to be spent on promotions. And otherwise you can use the rest to facilitate all these other items. So hopefully they can have some more leeway in the board to do more events and do more things where they can pay for a band, or they can pay for things that go along to promote and make those events better. So hopefully they'll see the change as a good one.
We have someone in the community applying for a grant for the Lee Johnson Center for $500,000. There's probably going to be a match associated with that. Would that come out of lodgers tax?
We absolutely could use, we probably could use the convention center tax for some of that match, because we would consider that. And I think that's been your vision. It's been the commission's vision, just to turn that back into that convention center style facility versus just a visitor center. But yes, we could use some of that.
Comments, questions? You happy?
That makes sense. Thanks again.
All right, thank you, Manager Whitehead.
Now we'll go back to your budget,
Page 1.
page 1, so all the way back. Ready to go?
I'm on the wrong one. One of 393 is the
One of 393.
Yeah. Okay.
I was right there.
Yeah. So I'm the 1 in 28. Is it? This is not look good.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Again, this budget, we use to kind of cover what we tried to think about, or what are the items that blanket the entire city. And so the main increases you're going to see, we added some money to travel and per diem and training. Obviously, we have a new commissioner on board. I thought the commission as a whole traveled well to start this year, attended some conferences, and we hope that trend will continue for you. So we're budgeting enough funds to handle some additional trainings and some travel. Kind of the large expenses throughout your budget, you can see the attorney's fees. Really pleased that number seems to be down. You know, we just haven't used our attorney that much this year. You know, hopefully that trend continues where it's really more just review, cursory, and attending our meetings. So hopefully we can stay within that. But we kept that budget the same. Under professional services, we are paying a lobbyist. Kathy Elliott is representing us, and she would like to continue to do so. We cut that cost last year from 36 to 18, and I think we got a little bit better value. Again, this year at the legislative session, we were able to bring home $875,000. And that Ms. Elliott is to be commended. That's part of the work that she did, making appointments for us, keeping us going, keeping us on track, and then attending those conferences and those meetings that when we weren't there. The one thing I've asked, and she's done a good job this year, was attending those meetings, those budget, the Senate Finance meets 4 times a year outside the legislature. And so she does attend those, and she's briefed us on those items. So that's an expense we think we'd like to keep, but it's part of the budget at 20.
Good.
Okay. Dawson just gave me another 1,000 to spend. Appreciative for the telephones.
We didn't budget them before.
Correct. And it's a good point. We did not have cell phones and technology last year in the budget for the commission. And this year, each of you have access to a laptop and then cell phones. So that's an expense on us. We would add to this budget. And then again, in the subrecipient grant, let me go back to the emergency declaration. Again, last year we had that small emergency. So we want to just keep this line item in the budget, which would give us the ability to spend up to $60,000 on a particular emergency situation that came up. Again, we never used it again after the emergency, and last year I think we only used $1,800 was the final cost of what that emergency cost us outside the normal scope of our employees, right?
Right.
We have budgeted $50,000, as you can see, for the subrecipients. You saw the request you had today. So again, finance, myself, we'll work with the team and kind of talk about where we think we can go and if we can add to some of those line items. And then finally, last year we added $200,000. The year before you had used $200,000 to purchase the PNC building. We kept that $200,000, which we'll be using this year for the renovation. And so again, I've proposed that we continue to keep that $200,000. What I'd like to do for sure is do an improvement to City Hall. We'd like to, as you saw, we upgraded the structure on the annex building. That kind of morphed from fixing the cracks and just painting it to the cracks were so bad that it needed repairs. It took an additional cost to do that. But we'd like to, and then the roof was really leaking at the annex building. So we fixed the roof. We've got some color that's going to be nice on Foch Street. So we'd like to do the same thing at City Hall. Kind of get that. Now, City Hall is in good shape. The roof was recently done, so we shouldn't have it. But we expect that it's going to be probably a $50,000 or $60,000 expense to do the color and the color code on that. And with that, I would stand for questions on your budget. Excuse me.
It's the biggest budget we've ever had.
So what happens to the emergency services, the $50,000 for emergency desk for $60,000? If we don't use it, it just rolls over to next year,
It'll just roll over to next year.
So
Exactly.
just a contingency in case.
Just a contingency. If you remember last year, we settled a lawsuit with the Hot Springs Land Development. We had a certificate of deposit that the city had put aside to cover that. And so with the municipal league settling that and handling it, we kept that CD. So we have it marked and earmarked. So that would be our kind of the cash that we would technically use, even though it comes out of the general fund. We kind of know that that would be our spot. But if we don't use it, it just would continue rolling forward. I would like to point out, Joanna in my office, my administrative assistant, my executive administrative assistant, you get that correct? She takes care of your budget for you. So, we've worked really hard this year. I just want to, thank you all for working directly. Joanna works hard to make sure that we stay in compliance. So what I will ask is, as you guys travel, we've given you more the ability to travel. Please make sure you work directly with Joe to make sure your travel is done correctly, right? Follow those rules, those procedures. It's not a lecture, but it is a reminder that, when it goes nice, it's easy to do. But anything that you want from your budget, Joe is going to be up to speed, and she would be the one that would put in a requisition, purchase orders. She prepares for your travel. So do everything you can to make sure she's happy. You'll get a good room.
Take those selfies at the conference, okay, guys?
All right.
So,
It's with minutes.
Okay. Let's see how we're doing. We're doing okay. Governing board's good.
Hospitals on page 64. So this is one of those caveats where we did not add any budget because, as you can see on the year to date, it's calculating. So when we get closer to sending it for review, we'll plug in those numbers. We have an estimated cost right now, but we want to just see it with this new method that we're using, how it's gonna work for us. So we had 15,000 for operating, and right now we have up to date is 9,509. And then on other costs, we had 500,000, and we've expensed 372,448. And on the system, it's showing 0, but as I mentioned, when we get closer, we'll plug in more accurate numbers. Staff, any questions on that? And then on page 65, we have the 1018 budget. So for this one, on the utilities, last year I gave you a breakdown from all the expenses of what each department has used. But this year we had to take a deep dive on the utilities. So Gary went a different route for this hearing today. I'll have the Silka was able to pull together the numbers from all the departments and the usage, but it's not in this presentation because we are doing the presentation of what Gary's findings were on the usage and what his proposed ideas are for the utilities moving forward. And then it's like the software is basically the IT discussion we had. And then we'll break down the insurances and the other operating costs. Those are all covered in the 1018, but we pull those costs, some of those costs from the enterprise funds as well. And then I'm gonna pass it over to Gary.
Thank you, Mayor and Jocelyn. Again, what we do, the city has about 55 different meters across the spectrum, and it took a while for me to kind of go back and study this and figure it out. So we pay, if you remember, 2 months back, I presented that I wanted to reduce the cost that we're paying for the utilities, for the electric side of the house, right? We were paying the full rack rate, and that caused us to have to budget for the full rack rate, which we were over budget on our expenses. I've gone through the report and studied, and there's several things that I need to kind of go back and evaluate. But what we'd like to do, what would happen here is we'll go to each department, right? The electric department primarily the enterprise funds, and put those meters back. I don't have a list completely, so some of them just say city meter, city meter, city meter, city meter. And so I need to go, Sonia was helping me. We're gonna go figure out where every meter is so that we can then assign to every individual account what utilities need to come out. So think about it. The water department needs to pay for the electric meter that pumps the water out of the ground from our well, right? But they don't need to pay for the finance office's particular meter at City Hall. So I've got to kind of go through and evaluate those. We are currently on a trend to pay about $1.25 million in the utility expenses this year. So that's why we budgeted. That's a very, very high number. It's higher than we budgeted last year. And so we're going to go really dig in hard on all these revenues, all these expenses that we have. Now, this also includes, we have TDS, right? So every building has technology. We have the gas company. We do pay Sierra Electric Co-op. So remember, the city runs utilities except in the rodeo arena area. So there we have to pay for all the street lights, any of our costs over there. So we have multiple other sources of utilities besides just the city of TRC.
And I think with
So-
some of,
Go ahead, no, please.
with some of the cleanup that we've been doing, we've been finding where things actually should be billed and shouldn't be billed. So it's been a caveat of all those different nuances happening. And like we mentioned, the TDS and the gas company, we don't have control over those. So we estimated budget last year 3%, but we should have gone 5%, because that's how much the increases of those usages are.
And so Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, what you would see is we just didn't break down each of those individual costs for each department today. I just broke down when I did my analysis, I just took everything, took it as a group, did an estimate to get for a budget, which is the 1.25. But now I need to go a step deeper so I can program it from every department so that, again, they know how much to put in. And then when we start the year, what's really good about the 1018 is we'll pull all those funds into this, and then finance just writes the check, right? They just pay for the electricity, they pay for the utilities, they pay for the insurance, they pay those costs instead of us doing POs again from all the departments. So we just have to associate the exact cost for each department.
And Silka sent us that this morning. I just haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'll forward it.
Will we be discussing or implementing any other changes for internet services? Now that we have more options.
Mayor Pro Tem, we would like to explore, obviously, we know that Ethos is coming online. That's high-speed fiber. They reached out to us 3 months ago and asked for all our addresses. So they've dropped service to each one of our buildings. So as soon as they get online, I've spoke with, again, everyone knows Mr. Tooley's the director of Ethos. And so we've talked, and we would be reaching out for a proposal from both companies to see what's going to be in our best system for us.
Lovely.
All right. Carrie was fixing to walk out, and what I invited Carrie today, if she would come down to the mic. I'd like her to take a minute and kind of explain before we go into, we're on cannabis, but I just wanted to catch her before she stepped away to talk a little bit about the internet. I mean, not the internet, but our website and the changes proposed, and so that you guys would have a briefing on the costs that we're proposing, moving from revised to GovStack.
Yes.
All right.
GovStack.
So
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. Thank you for entertaining me. So I was going to go to a Fiesta meeting, but I think this is more important. So it's been a year since I've been here. We've looked heavily at the website and our public information, how we're getting information out, even better than we have before. But in the recap of the year, I've spoken with administration. I've kind of understood a lot from the public, what they like to see, what they need to see, instead of what we've been doing. How can we look at it differently? And we haven't been doing anything wrong. Revise is a great platform. It's been what we've needed in the past, but we've outgrown it. That demand for public information and the accuracy, and I think the functionality of getting that information out is really what we're looking for. And that's the future, what we need. Instead of a bulletin board type website, we're moving towards tasks. How do we serve the public and really take this as a service and information hub from that days of old where we would post some static information that everybody needed. And it was pretty verbose and pretty text heavy. And we're going to be moving that into how can the community engage it better? How can they find things easier than we have in the past? And it's been a lot of work, a lot of coordination with departments. What do we need to have? What are the kind of the rules and regulations of what we should be having to function as a government website? In the past few months, with the help of IT, we have transitioned from a .org, which is typically an organization site, into a .gov, which is a government site. And part of that was really important because it gives us the credibility that we're looking for. And as we're working to develop branding, we're looking at things of what really is an identity for the city. We need the website for that purpose as well. So we're looking at making a very dynamic situation here out of something that we didn't have the time and energy to do that we always wanted to. It wasn't that we were lacking, it was that it's a big task. And me being in this position, I think we've been fortunate to be able to have a little bit more time to dedicate to what the needs of our community is. And I'm still getting input. Even today, I got input from another board and some members of the public on what they would like to see and how the bulletin boards, everything that lodgers tax is doing, everything that departments are doing, the infrastructure changes, how that really all culminates into this, I would say, warehouse of information that we need to get out better. And we're working really hard with certain departments. Of course, the water department, you've seen a lot of postings and things of that recent because of the work that they're doing and the efficiency that they're getting information back to us. We're getting it out to the public. Revise is great for certain things. What it's not great for, what it doesn't work for us anymore is that we have limited design control. We cannot change the way our site looks and functions to be news content worthy without an $11,000 price tag. So anytime we change the homepage, they want to charge us $11,000. If we move to GovStack, we have full functional control of how that looks. We could update it daily based on what's coming through. So we could be adding any videos or any content that we have through any meetings. And I think that's really what you need. To say this is a viable presence here for information. So another thing that is coming down in about a year from now is ADA compliance, which is very important. We have to start looking for our government size by April of 2027. Are we functional for ADA compliance, which includes not things about how design lays out. It can be busy, so to speak, and have a lot of information, but it has to be accessible information to people who have disability. And part of that is color and how do things read? How have we labeled things? Do we have associated PDFs? And that will fall on the responsibility of us to get that accurate. And we have been doing a lot of work over the past year with bringing it up to the level that we have, but we still have 106 points of ADA non-functionality on our site. And we can't go in daily and fix those. Everything with Revise is a submit support ticket. We can't change things quickly. We rely on them to take the ticket and then fix it. And we need a little bit more control. With moving to GovStack, not to scare anybody, but we have heard that, oh, what if somebody's not here that knows how to do this? Or what if we're too busy to do it? What's really great about GovStack is it's a design drag and drop. So any department that feels comfortable in updating any information can drag and drop the information in. And also use the ADA compatibility site checker to make sure what they've done is still in compliance with the law. So that helps us a lot. And when you're talking about accessibility, you also look about mobile accessibility. Most of us use mobile phone or a tablet to do things online. Currently, although they may say it's not true, Revise is not very mobile friendly. If you were to pull up our website currently, we have done some modifications to it. It doesn't read well and it doesn't pull up well. And that's really, I think, the biggest issue for us right now with Revise is we don't have that control and we don't have that ease of access. And that's really what we're looking for. How do we make it better for our staff and our public? And how do we make it easier? So that's why GovStack has really come to the forefront. I've looked at quite a few demos over the past year. They were pretty equal with what we were paying. They're a little bit more than what we were paying. But I think that functionality and bringing in a potential mobile website on a second domain that we already pay for is going to be even better for the public. So any questions that anybody has at this point? I know that I didn't try to throw any mumbo jumbo in there as far as HTML and coding, but yes, we can do more coding if we have more possibility for making more dynamic, I would say, usability, beefing up the library site, making it more user-friendly. And that's all really what we need to look for to show that we're functioning highly, for showing and showcasing the work that we are doing behind the scenes.
Great.
Yeah.
Just for information, you can't reach the website from out of country. I was in Germany and I got error message for you are not reachable. I can't visit the TOC website.
Yes,
You're out of country.
I definitely understand that. I do use a VPN at home, which actually connects to the Netherlands a lot. So there are our own government sites that do prevent that. So when you went to a .gov site, under CISA, which is basically a security site that's a federal government, they do limit restrictions based on your connection. So if you would have VPN'd to an American server, you could have gotten in. And that's just something that I've learned professionally and personally this year with VPN access. So that is a good thing to share for people who are moving about. There are free VPNs that are safe and secure that they could access anything in the country based on that .gov domain.
We move this to this new system. What are the safeguards for us? I don't think we want everybody to be able to input. Is it all going to be funneled through the PIO or how do we?
Yes, that is the way that we've moved. In the past, we had departments or certain people in departments that were able to change content or edit text. And that worked great for what we were doing. But now with the accessibility guidelines, the way we've moved it is we've taken certain departments and entrusted members of them to be a representative for that department. That's greatly limited, but there are some examples. Clerk's office has information to move bound to file manager. Library has access to the calendar so they can put their information up. And it will be the same. You can take a parent-child relationship and kind of really narrow that down to individual users who have access to the site. There's 2 people in the police department that have access to update the staff directory. So things that will not take them as long to update. And if they're fully trained on the system, they have access to that as well. It won't be open access.
Questions?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
You Carrie, it's looking good.
So-
We're doing great.
What's your time frame?
If we are able to put this into play, GovStack has said it would be a 5-month transition. I was very lucky to meet with Carlos and Jocelyn here, and Karen did some back-end work to really look at a contract with GovStack. They were very obliging to our, I wouldn't say demands, but we were saying, this is where we're looking. This is what we have available, because industry-wide, you're looking at a 5% increase in the contract. And we were able to get that down to 3%. It was a very easy meeting once we got information from procurement and finance as to really what would protect us in that contract. And they came through with it. So they said if we had a contract in place in the month of April, we would successfully meet an April 10th payment date. And at the contract end on April 31st, we would have 2 weeks to make that go live and we wouldn't be without a site. Thank you.
And we don't have to go out of state for a court.
Yeah, California. Well, that would be in the travel expenses, so we could beat that up a bit, but it's New Mexico now.
I also just texted Allison, you're on your way, that you were giving us a
Thank you.
report, so she knows to expect.
Okay, thank you. I've stood now. No, I really appreciate it. I think this is a great move. Moving to something that where we have more control and it, you know, training the staff, especially the clerks department, is going to be really integral in getting this going. And so that we are meeting what we need to do as a city government and showing that we have good transparency and taking these pages to a level that we haven't quite seen yet. It's going to be super great. And it really involves all of us and all of the work that we do. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Page 98, we have cannabis. It's the gross receipts that we get, currently we're at $41,720. We budgeted 65,000 and are gonna budget 65,000 again. For operating cost, we budgeted 1,500. We're currently at 1,185. So we're gonna stay consistent with the previous fiscal year. If you have any questions, I'll defer to Karen.
This we use for the PD.
I have a question. I was approached and I didn't know what to say. What is revenue used for?
The general fund.
It
Drops it
just
across.
automatically goes into the general fund. There's no specific.
It's not
Okay.
marked for anything specific. It's not
We can use it for anything.
in the general fund.
Yeah.
So
For parts, probably. No, just kidding.
And we use it to buy cannabis. Well, you know, then we just.
And then just keep it going. But yeah, it's not earmarked. It's part of the.
So,
tax- tax for cannabis.
but it is the suggestion.
Something, so. It's money in the bank.
As far as I'm aware, I don't think anybody is using their cannabis that earmarked for a specific thing.
Yeah, I understand. It is just, yeah, I got approached, yeah, people asked, okay, we are getting that revenue. Is it used here more for outdoor for the public? So to the benefit of the public?
Ideally,
Like
this would
that.
be one that we would consider letting it build and then look for a future project that could benefit the city, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. So I'll put it in a separate account. Let it.
Yeah, it's its own account.
Oh, it is, yeah, it is. Okay, thank you.
And then I believe Gary's gonna handle the fire on page 21.
I will attempt. I'm gonna have Joe, you wanna come down? Just in case you cover me. Paul and Ron have presented their budget to Joe in the office, so. Fire department's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. On page 21, you can see the fire expense, 48,599. Again, the fire department is a volunteer fire department, and we pay them per each call. Each member that attends goes to calls, goes to training. We cover that cost, and this is the line item for which we covered that cost out. So we set up and budget 30,000. From the fire department's budget, because they rent a space inside the office where the city manager is, they have that space right behind me. That's the fire chief's office. We charge them $30,000 a year for that office.
Okay. Don't smile when you say that.
I'm not. So we get, we charge them, and then it is an eligible fire expense to charge for admin and admin fees. It's just like a typical admin fee, but then again, we cover the cost of the volunteers, because fire funds cannot be used for employee costs. Okay, and then breaking down into their budget on page 71. 70 and 71. Try to give you the highlights. If I get these correct, we kind of kept everything fairly consistent. That's what they asked for the last year. Their revenues will be 506,000. They do remain a class 2 fire department. They have considerable savings. This year you did approve a fire truck. If you go to the last item on your budget, you'll see that fire truck is still budgeted. The purchase order and the order has been made, but the truck, it'll take a couple of years for that truck to come in. So, but it's budgeted. It'll just carry forward. What they'd like to do this year, the biggest change within their budget would be doing some repairs to their building. And Joe, I think they had budgeted 50, but are they asking to go up higher than that?
Yes, sir.
What are they going?
I believe they're gonna go up, maybe twice of the 50, so it'll be around like 100, be less or more. Just because the North Station, not only is they're gonna have the roof redone, but also their parking lot at the North Station. They are also getting quotes on getting the South Station, their doors, they're gonna be remodeled, reconstructed.
And so with that, Mayor, we would really stand for any questions. Their budget's pretty much the same, and they can move their money inside their line items. In most cases, they have to get state fire marshal's approval, so everything they do within their budget is approved by the state fire marshal.
The fire funds have a healthy budget too, so that increase has affected very much.
Questions, comments? We're happy.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. I think we're down to just the projects.
Yes.
We're down to page 2 now. Just kidding.
So we're down to the back and that spreadsheet of projects. You can pull it out, Mayor, if you're comfortable.
Thank you. Doing on time.
Yeah, excellent.
You're right there, aren't
Where are we at? This. What is the last one?
It's the last one. Okay.
We're just gonna, Mayor, we're just gonna roll through the projects. Stacy and I will just talk to you about the particular projects.
So we don't have to go through all the pages.
You won't need to worry about the pages. I'm just gonna go off which
Right here, screen. Okay.
because again, Mayor, what we did last year, which is, it really was a good move. We put all the projects are now in the 300 line item. So we have each project broke out. Last year, we had to carry a couple of street projects in there in the 216 account, but we finished those, so they're closed out. So all these projects that we'll be talking about are effectively what you see in the back sheet here.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about, let me walk in hand. Kathy, would you help me with this? Could you help? I don't think this got it. These are the geo bonds. We give those to the commissioner. Did you guys know it?
Yeah, we've got it in the book.
Once you take that.
So
So, are we good to go, Mary? You want me to continue?
No, we're good.
Good to go?
Yep.
Let me start with the sheet we just handed you, which is the general obligation bonds. So we could kind of work through that just to brief you. I've tried to highlight the items in yellow on your sheet that are completed. So we've done the backup motor for the vac station. We have used some funds to bring well 8 back onto the SCADA system. We also needed to do some work on well 6, but we've been able to use shovel ready. We had some extra funds there. So that'll bring all the wells currently back up to speed. We did finish Cherry Lane. As you guys know, we did that water project. So the geo bonds have been used to improve the Cherry Lane water project. If you go to bond number 2, you can see that we used $180,000 to bring well 2. Remember last year I presented that well, the housing was in terrible shape, the pump was in terrible shape, and we've repaired that. It should be online this month. We're waiting for the final engineer's report to go into the environment department for them to authorize that pump to come online. And currently, as we're speaking, the Hagen vacuum system line is being put in as well. So that will be a big improvement to help with that system. And we're also ready to go to bid on the engineering for the vac station so we can get the 51 pits rebuilt. So hopefully we'll get some work done on those. Bond 3, which you've just finally approved a few months back, we've got the funds in. The biggest portion of that is going to the match portion for critical water. So $440,000 is going to that. And then we've still set aside some dollars for the headworks and for, we still need to identify some road projects. And then sometime this year throughout the budget, we will finish up the bond, the general obligation bond. We have one more to go through the process to provide us that last, it's going to be about $750,000. It's probably going to be a little bit less than that in the final bond. But I just, again, to remind, just to brief, the general obligation bonds are being spent and according to the way they were given to us, water, wastewater, and streets. And we should start seeing a lot of those funds getting spent, as we go through this year. Any questions on the general obligation bonds?
Money well spent.
And so now I'll try to go as slow and as quickly as we need to. What we did on your sheet of your projects you have in front of you, we highlighted the ones in gray that we are potentially working or in action for. Most of the stuff on the top, the airport, we just have a small grant left. We have a little bit of money left in the airport grant of $22,000. Under the animal shelter, we have just over 900,000. We've started conversations about the animal shelter project that hopefully we'll get those funds spent in the next year. Building out a campus on the animal shelter. Those funds are all secured and in order. We are waiting for the electric car charger. That grant has been awarded. The contract has been let. The site has been surveyed. The electric department has put up all the work they needed to. We are just waiting for the contractor. That project is supposed to be finished by June 30th of this year. So it's got a very short window to be done. That one should be, it should come together pretty fast. We are wrapping up, as you heard earlier from OJ, we're wrapping up the improvements at the skate park and at the boat ramp. So both of those grants should be closed out. All 3 of those grants should be closed out. And then this year we did the Clean and Beautiful grant, bringing in the bottle water fill stations, picnic tables, and some litter cleanup. Those are going well. The planning department is finishing up. We're in the final steps of the comprehensive plan, which is a CDBG grant at $50,000. We'd like to, hopefully we'll get that closed out here in the next few months. We have started, the bid is out for the police department, and that $356,000 you see there in capital outlay will be partnered with the $200 that we have, a little less than that in our general fund, and then the funds the chief has set aside from his police department grant. So we have just under $800,000 for that particular project. So hopefully we'll get some bids real soon. An exciting one for all of you. We're here through this. Cantrell Dam is ready to go to start the bidding process. We have awarded a contract to Wilson and Company to do the engineering. You did that a few months back, and they're in the beginning process of getting ready to go to bid on that particular project. While we speak about Cantrell, we have a match component that's due for Cantrell that we have to budget for. We have 800, it's a 10% match. So we have just over 800,000. The flood commissioner has graciously granted us 400,000 of that 800. So in the budget process, I still have to identify where we'll find the other 400 to deal with our match on that particular project. Continuing down, I'll go to NMDOT. Again, as I've pointed out, we have several projects on the books that we're planning on starting. The first two are Date Street, 2nd Street, down to Pershing on Main. That's the project 1, and then part 2 there is from 2nd Street, is on 2nd Street from Date to Ash. Both of those roads were identified early in your projects for water. The commission had asked the administration staff to find roads that were connected to water projects. Both of those roads were covered in the MSD project, so that new water lines are already in those roads. And so that's why those two projects were selected. We're going to change up the process on those. We're not going to do the full scope. We don't have enough money to do everything that we had programmed for those. So potentially we'll be just coming in and doing what we call a mill and fill, and then adding some sidewalks and some curbs as far as we can on those particular projects. We have 555,000 to do sidewalks on Smith Street. We've just asked for a reauthorization of, not a reauthorization, but a change order in those plans. Instead of building sidewalks out on both sides of the street, we've asked to just do them on one side so that we can extend it further down to the high school. So this will start at the elementary school. Will work its way. We have a section of sidewalk there. It'll go down and connect with the roundabout. And then we're going to try to jump the street and go down as far as we can to the high school. NMDOT had some extra funds available this year for this particular project. We applied for it and we were awarded, I think, $300,000 additional dollars. So again, and this is one of those projects that it's only sidewalks. That's all we're building with this particular project. So we are going to try to figure out an innovative way to try to go as far as we possibly can. We may use some some force account, but we'd like to get as far down the road as we possibly can. The scope that we asked for is to be able to go all the way from Smith Street to Marie Street with sidewalk. So we'll see how far the additional funds that we were able to get will help us with. Okay, let's jump down to, we do have the New Mexico Finance Authority planning grant. That's going to be to study the affluent distribution system. It's time for that to go through an upgrade, and we'd like to extend that to the cemetery if we possibly can. We have the money for the vac station. As I pointed out, I think we've posted the RFP for an engineer. We had to, in this particular case, we could not use on-call engineering. The requirement for these funds make us go to bid. So we're out to bid for engineering to get back to that. And those funds will be spent doing the 51 pits that we have at the vac station. So we'll get a new line on Hagen and then get these pits upgraded. We have the funds for the headworks. We do have authorization. We can use on-call contract and on-call engineering for this project. So we are in negotiation right now with Bohannon Houston to come online so that we can get the weirs repaired and the headworks repaired. And hopefully, knock on wood, we'll have an opportunity to get an additional $2.5 million from the Water Trust Board for the wastewater treatment plant, which will round out that $5 million we've been looking for to get the wastewater plant in healthy. So if we get that Water Trust Board, by having the agreement with Bohannon Houston in front, we'll be able to just roll right through the engineering and get those funds spent really quick. So we're excited about that. Let's go down to the most fun, the water projects, WISP 1. As you know, at the last meeting, you awarded that contract. So we're excited to get that project going. That's probably, for all of you that have been around for a while, that's probably the biggest project in water. That'll replace 8 pressure relief valves. The bids came in competitive enough that we were able to do the add alternates. And by getting the pressure relief system, we think this is going to be change the way that our water lines should hopefully stop breaking as much as they are. So this is a big one for us. The next one, we're still waiting on final grant agreement on the next HUD project. So that one's not yet been in design. And then as you all know, Shovel Ready is under construction. The crew should be moving to 2nd Street next. We're waiting, the tank is coming in. So that project is moving along really well. We had a very good meeting this week with our engineers. It turns out with everything being said and done, what we bid on this, our contingency, the engineer estimates we have 1.9 million left over from that project. And I authorized them this week to begin to look at a water line extension. So we'll go down Silver Street and then be able to connect. There's a stretch of line that comes on Pershing that's cast iron. And so those are the two next critical pieces. So hopefully we can add a new project off of that particular one and get some more water line put in. The remaining projects that you see are fully designed. We're ready to go to bid on Wispy 2. Critical Water is 90% designed, so we're ready to go to bid on all of those water projects. We've got a couple of FAA. I think these are projects you can see are complete. I think on the back pages, these are mostly completed projects. If you take a look at that, I apologize, Tracy had that set up for me nice, and I missed it, but those are all the projects that have been completed in the last few years. And then the bottom half would be any of the pending projects or pending applications that we have in for potential projects and grants. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Broke my brain.
I have just a question with Eva Johnson, where you're standing there with the foundations at the visitor center. Is there some kind of timeline or goal time-wise?
There, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner Huffner. So again, we're waiting for the final grant agreement. So again, the governor signed the bill. It looked like, as we looked it up yesterday, it was still there. We'll probably get started as quickly as we can to do that. And that plan, my goal is to do that as the design and build, right? Where we solicit contractors that could come in and do that scope of work, get it designed for us, so that I could bypass, cost and engineering on our side. Let the contractor do the design work for us. So probably
October before we get a grant.
Probably, she said probably August, October before we get the grant agreement from DFA on the funds.
So it's at least your 1 year out, pretty much until we even start. That's a possibility. I'm just asking because of the rental agreement and everything expiring. And so
Yes,
we have to figure something out.
a year would be Commissioner, a year would be ambitious. I mean, we could probably, kind of start drafting the RFP. We could probably start doing some of that work and have it teed up. So as soon as we get the contract drafted, we'd be ready to go to bids. Once we get the contract in hand, we could go to bid. But that would just be us getting, ambitious on that.
Okay.
You look at the numbers at the bottom, current funded project totals. Just recap some of those, gives you an idea of how much stuff we have out there and where we're going. I mean, there's over $54 million just in grant amounts. Of that, our match requirement is 3.4 million. Our loan components are over 10 million. So we're playing with a I'm not gonna say plan, but we're working with over $68 million of grants and projects, things that are going on for our community. That's truly astounding for a community of this size.
Thank you. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of projects. I mean, it's a lot of work just to keep up with the meetings that go with it.
Take it easy.
Well, thank you, everybody. We'll have the final numbers, final interim numbers for the main agenda. If you have any significant concerns, reach out to myself or manager, we can adjust them. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
Well, thank you for a process that was a lot less stressful this time around. It went really smooth. We weren't lost. It was nice being able to record page numbers and projects. You got this nice job in your presentations. The whole thing just went a lot smoother than I've ever seen it go. So thank you so much for the extra work and getting us there.
Karen and I worked really well together. And so this guy helps a little bit.
It's really, in fairness, they did a good job. I thought it was easy to, it's nice to sit and just talk about the things I want to do and where I want to go and hand it off, and it goes and gets a good partnership, and I appreciate that. So
This is really what I wanted in that, something that we can build on for next year. Because it's a long way to straighten out the process. Like I said, the process is a lot easier this year. This is a template for future,
Yes.
So no matter what happens with personnel and whatever goes on, it's kind of the thing that we need to build upon and makes it a lot easier. So hopefully nobody wants to change anything in 5 years. That they want to stay with the process like this and it's good for us.
Staff really appreciated it too, because when we had our interim budget meetings, and it's.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.